This is Leah Tate, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the August meeting of the California Board of Psychology. We have a full agenda, and the board is very happy you're here with us today. Before we begin with our traditional roll call, I would like to open our meeting with a ceremonial oath for our very own Dr. Maricela Cervantes, who was recently reappointed to the Board of Psychology. Her reappointment became effective on June 1st, 2022 and expires on June 1st, 2026. Dr. Cervantes, are you ready for your oath?
I sure am.
Okay, here we go. I, Maricela Cervantes, do solemnly swear.
I, Maricela Cervantes, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
And will bear true faith and allegiance.
To the Constitution of the United States.
To the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservation.
Or a purpose of evasion.
Or a purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
The duties upon which.
The duties upon which.
I'm about to enter.
I'm about to enter.
Congratulations, Dr. Cervantes. We're fortunate to have you continue your valued contributions to the Board of Psychology.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it is 9:03, and I would like to call the meeting to order and ask that Ms. Berteau please call the roll to establish quorum.
Yes. Kasuga.
Here.
Cervantes.
Here.
Fu.
Aye.
Harp Sheets.
Here.
Nystrom.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Riscate.
Here.
Rogers.
Present.
Tate.
Here.
Roll is complete.
Thank you, and quorum has been established. Thank you to the public for joining us for the August 2022 meeting. As a reminder, the mission of the Board of Psychology is to protect consumers of psychological services by licensing psychologists, regulate the practice of psychology, and support the evolution of the profession. I have a few personnel announcements. Diana Brown has recently retired from the Board of Psychology after serving more than 20 years supporting our mission. If you have called the board, it is likely that you have spoken directly with her. Losing her is a tremendous loss for the board, but we wish her good luck pursuing her next adventure. And also, the board welcomes Ms. Noreen Marks back as the Board of Psychology Legal Counsel. She's been previously with the board for several years. She has officially retired from the department, but has agreed to return for a few months to provide legal clarity and support to the Board of Psychology, and we're very excited she'll be with us again. Dr. Rogers will be leading us in a mindfulness exercise this morning. Dr. Rogers?
Good morning, Dr. Tate. Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. Congratulations, Dr. Cervantes, on your reappointment, and welcome back, Ms. Marks. Glad to have you. So I'll begin with our mindfulness exercise. So as some of you know, I write the wellness column for the newsletter. And in the most recent writing that I did, I focused a lot on nature. That's something that's just been really close to my heart as of late. And so I thought I would share a mindfulness exercise that incorporates nature that's all around us, and sometimes we sort of take it for granted or maybe don't pay attention to it. So I thought we would spend some time doing one of my favorite practices, which I don't do often enough, but every time I do it, it's always so nourishing. This one is called the 4 elements. So if you could get into a comfortable position, we will begin. Okay, so let's start by getting grounded in the body, offering ourselves a sense of love and compassion and tenderness as we get ready to engage in the work of navigating through the work of the Board of Psychology. So finding a comfortable position, whether you're standing or sitting. If it feels comfortable for you, I invite you to close your eyes. And if that doesn't feel supportive in this moment, you can softly lower your gaze. And just connecting in with the breath for a few cycles. Checking in and noticing, what do you feel? Asking yourself, what's happening in my body in this present moment? Bringing your attention to your heart area, noticing any sensations there. And whatever it is that's present, any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations in the body, ask yourself, can I meet this with kindness? Can I meet this present moment without judgment? Can I meet this moment with compassion? If it's helpful, you can also bring a hand to your heart to feel more deeply that sense of connection, that sense of kindness and care. And really feel into this sense of groundedness and compassion for a moment or two. And as I said in the beginning, we'll focus our attention on the 4 elements, bringing nature into our practice. So the first element is earth. So as you settle in, begin to notice the physical weight of your body. Here, the solidity of your body is the earth element. This element is heavy. This element is stable. And as you connect to that sense of solidity, allow your body to soften. Soften any areas of tension, holding, tightness. And just rest deeply into the ground, into the floor, into the earth beneath you. Feeling the density of your body, your bones and your flesh. All of that is solid and dense. This is the earth element. As you feel the stability of the earth within you and around you, you know that it's connected to all of the earth around us. The ground, the trees, the rocks, the mountains, all that is solid and stable. The earth element is in you and is connected to the earth element all around you. Now we'll move to the next element, which is fire. In this moment, begin to notice the temperature in your body. Fire is heat, warmth, vibration. So where do you feel your internal heat? Sometimes you can connect to the fire element in the belly, the heart area, anywhere in the body that feels warm and hot. Know that this fire element in you is connected to the fire element all around you as well. For example, the sun is the epitome of the fire element in nature, keeping the planet warm and alive. So always know that the fire element, the warmth and the heat within you, is connected to the fire element all around you. So explore what it feels like to know that connection we all have with fire. The third element is water. Water is smooth and flowing. Most of our bodies are water. Perhaps you can sense the water element in the moistness of your eyes, in your mouth, in the blood that's coursing through your veins, and all that is fluid and flowing through your body. As you feel this water within you, perhaps you can sense that this water is in balance with the water that covers our planet. Like our bodies, our planet is also mostly water. The oceans, rivers, lakes and streams, rain, mist, clouds, morning dew. Know that the water element that's in you is connected to water all around you. Water is life. Explore what it feels like to know this connection we all have with water. And the last element is air. Air is movable and changeable. It's light and ephemeral. Of course, in our bodies, the air element is the breath, one of the anchors of every mindfulness practice. Notice the air as you breathe in and breathe out, connecting to lightness and changeability. Your breath, your air is connected to all of the air around you, to the sky, to the wind, air that circulates around our planet, breathed in and out by many, many beings. So rest your awareness on the breath for a moment or two as we begin to bring this meditation to a close. Explore what it feels like to know that you are connected to all of nature through the air you breathe, through all of the elements.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rogers.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I appreciate you giving us space to focus on ourselves this morning. The calendar of the board meetings and committee meetings are in your agenda packet. And our next full board meeting is scheduled to be a 2-day in-person meeting in Sacramento on November 17th through the 18th, 2022. And the board is looking forward to meeting in person after such a long time. So I'm hopeful that that will remain as is, and we will be in Sacramento mid-November. And just to give you a little bit of planning around our morning so you can organize yourself, I'm thinking a break around 10:30 and lunch around 12 noon-ish. So any board comment on agenda item number 2?
Hi, Dr. Tate. This is Dr. Kasuga. I just wanted to echo how much I appreciate Dr. Rogers' mindfulness exercise and the ability to focus on ourselves for a little bit this morning.
Thanks for the comment, Dr. Kasuga. Any other board comment?
Yes, hi.
Oh, hello.
Hi, this is Shakanda. Thank you so much, Dr. Kasuga. I appreciate your kindness. And I just want to say I am really looking forward to seeing everyone in person. It's been a very long time, so I'm really glad about that. Fingers crossed for November.
I don't see any other hands, but I'll give it just a sec. Any other board comment? Okay, Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment?
Absolutely. We are now open for public comment. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand. We will be displaying instructions in just a second here. There we are. And let us take just a few moments to see if we have a request for public comment. All right, seeing no request. Oh, we do have a request. Hold on just a moment. Bear with us, Eric. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Yes. Well, I don't know if this is the appropriate time. I've never been to a Board of Psychology meeting beforehand, so I'm not sure how this works in regards to making comments and so forth. But I am appreciative of the board discussing the issues in regards to administrative wait times and delays, putting that on the agenda for today's session. Would this be an appropriate time for a comment, or would later in today's meeting be best?
Hello there, this is Leah Tate. We are just taking comments on agenda item number 2, which is the President's welcome. And later in the agenda would be a perfect time, agenda item number 10. We will be addressing the administrative wait times.
I apologize, I was a little bit unclear. My sincere apologies.
Oh, not a problem. Are you going to be able to be here for the agenda item number 10?
Hopefully, I'm not exactly sure when you all will get to that in the agenda today, but I've cleared my morning.
Okay.
Here, so
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
And that was our only request for public comment at the moment. Do you wish to return to the agenda?
Yes, please. Thank you so much. So we'll be moving on to agenda item number 3, public comment for items not on the agenda. The board may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Before I invite speakers to come forward for public comment, I would ask individuals making comments to not discuss the specifics, including names, as to pending complaints, pending licensing applications, or pending disciplinary actions that may come before the board for a decision. Such discussions are considered ex parte communications, as they could provide information to the members that is outside of the record in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act. While there may be a desire to engage in further discussion with comments presented during this time, the board may not discuss or take action at this time. Although this may give the impression we are not being responsive, these procedures are critical to ensure the compliance with the Open Meetings Act and to avoid compromising the speaker's goals or the board's mission. If there is a speaker before you who expresses thoughts that are very similar to yours, please feel free to verbally agree with previous speakers. Mr. Moderator, can you please open public comment?
We are now open for public comment on agenda item 3. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no requests for public comment, do you wish to return to the agenda?
Yes, please, and thank you. We're moving on to agenda item number 4, which is the discussion on possible approval of the board meeting minutes from the April 29th, 2022 meeting. Is there any board comment or a possible motion regarding the meeting minutes from our April 29th meeting?
This is Dr. Harpsheets. I make a motion that we approve those minutes.
I second. This is Shakanda Rogers.
We have a motion and a second. Any board comment? Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment?
Absolutely. We are now taking public comment on the motion to approve the minutes. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Let's take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no requests for comment, would you like to return to the motion?
Yes, please. Is there any other board comment? I'm not seeing any hands. Perfect. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Pruteau, can you please call the roll?
Kasuga.
Aye.
Cervantes.
Aye.
Hu.
Aye.
Harpsheets.
Aye.
Nystrom.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Riscate.
Aye.
Rogers.
Aye.
Tate.
Aye.
Thank you.
Perfect. Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 5, which is the Executive Officer's Report. Ms. Sorick, please.
Good morning, everyone. Included in your meeting materials is the Executive Officer's Report. This has 2 parts. the personnel update and the waiver update. We have had some movement on our personnel updates. So just a note that we have a licensing analyst vacancy, a licensing technician vacancy. We just got approval for a half-time retired annuitant to assist the licensing unit. And then we have 2 enforcement analyst positions vacant and an office technician vacant for Ms. Brown's departure. We did hire a couple of new people, and you'll hear a little bit about that later in Ms. Monterrubio's report. We have Jeffrey Smith and Christian Lavarella McDonald, and that is the personnel update. We hope to have these vacancies filled within the next couple of months, and we'll be conducting interviews hopefully over the next month for all of these. Moving on to the waiver update. The 4 active waivers are still contingent upon the declared emergency, and the face-to-face supervision is still continuing. Some movement you'll be hearing about a little later with AB 2754, which is progressing, and that will codify what we have been allowing for face-to-face supervision waiver, allowing that to be done by electronic means. So that concludes my executive officer's report, and I am available for any questions the board may have.
Do any board members have questions for Ms. Sorek regarding the executive officer's report? I don't see any hands. Just scrolling through one more time. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment?
We are now taking public comment on the executive officer's report. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Let's take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no requests for public comment, do you wish to return to the agenda?
Yes, please, and thank you for your help. We are moving on to agenda item number 6. This is the DCA update, and this update will be done by Mr. Brian Clifford, who is the Senior Planning and Implementation Manager. Mr. Clifford, you have the floor.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me an opportunity to provide the Department of Consumer Affairs update today. As you may know, the governor signed Senate Bill 189 on June 30th, which reinstitutes through July 1st, 2023, the remote meeting provisions of the Bagley-Keene open meeting that were in place during the pandemic. The changes took effect immediately upon signing. Please be aware that DCA wants you to have the right meeting for the business of the board while still taking into consideration both costs and public participation. We're asking boards to still track the costs for meetings, even those where there isn't travel, and to use WebEx as much as possible to allow the public to attend remotely, especially as COVID-19 numbers continue to rise. DCA is still asking boards to complete the public meetings survey to assist in tracking these costs for your board meetings in order to be able to compare costs for in-person and WebEx meetings, since this legislative change is only in place for this fiscal year. We have distributed the surveys to all boards and bureaus and asked that they be completed within 30 days of each meeting held. Should you have any questions, please reach out to DCA Member Relations. Though legislation is passed allowing remote meetings, we are reminding boards that choose to hold in-person meetings of the safety measures, best practices, and recommendations for holding public meetings. When planning for upcoming meetings, please remember, all board members and staff are expected to follow the state and local public health guidelines that apply in the area where meetings are held. Face coverings are strongly recommended for all board members and staff at meetings. The California Department of Public Health strongly recommends that individuals continue to mask in indoor settings. Please post face covering guidance signage at your meeting check-in or entrance. Vaccination and testing prior to meeting in person or at remote locations. Members need to submit vaccine verification to DCA's Office of Human Resources or be subject to COVID-19 testing. I'd like to move on to our Enlightened Licensing Project. We are pleased to announce the inaugural report of the Enlightened Licensing Project is now available and was distributed to all boards and bureaus on Friday, May 13th. This innovative and collaborative project was started to streamline and enhance licensing processes by utilizing the knowledge and expertise of subject matter experts within DCA boards. This project was conducted in partnership with the Board of Registered Nursing. After a thorough assessment of some of BRN's licensing processes, the project co-chairs provided recommendations to introduce new ideas and implement best practices for critical licensing activities. DCA held a brown bag event on June 1st to review the recommendations with all boards and bureaus, as we hope that other boards and bureaus can learn from this report and implement recommendations where applicable. We believe it is so important to learn from each other and to share our knowledge. We will be turning to enforcement next, and we'll be reviewing the enforcement processes at a board through this enlightenment process, utilizing enforcement subject matter experts. I wanted to update you on 2 additional brown bags we held. We held a brown bag on July 5th to roll out changes to DCA's regulation development and approval process. These changes were also discussed and approved by DCA's Executive Officer and Bureau Chief Cabinet. DCA shared documentation on the process and changes with all boards and bureaus. On August 10th, DCA held a brown bag meeting on the topic of social media. The presentation included an overview of social media best practices, content examples, security, and more. A copy of the presentation was provided to participants, and if you have any questions or requests regarding social media, please contact DCA's Deputy Director of Communications, Monica Vargas. DCA is pleased to announce that Nicole Lay was hired on June 24th as the Deputy Director of DCA's Office of Administrative Services. With more than 20 years of state service experience, Nicole has dedicated 10 of those years to DCA, most recently serving as Acting Deputy Director of Administrative Services, where she was responsible for overseeing the business functions of the Human Resources, Fiscal Operations, and Business Services offices. Prior to this role, Nicole was Chief of the DCA Office of Human Resources. She also previously served at the Contractor State License Board and the Department of Motor Vehicles. We are very excited to have her as part of DCA's executive leadership team. Additionally, Olivia Trejo has been appointed as DCA's Chief of the Office of Human Resources as of August 1st. Olivia has over 22 years of human resources experience in state government, and the last 9 have been with DCA's OHR. She began her career in 2000 at the Department of Insurance and then at the Department of Real Estate, and most recently as DCA's Assistant Human Resources Chief for nearly 5 years. Lastly, Taylor Schick was appointed DCA's Chief Fiscal Officer in July. Taylor has more than 16 years of state experience, all with DCA. He began his career in 2006 as a budget analyst and most recently as DCA's budget officer. As the new DCA Chief Fiscal Officer, Taylor will lead the dedicated accounting and budget teams. It is with great sadness, though, that we announced some transitions within our Board and Bureau Relations unit. Carrie Holmes, Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations, left on May 13th. Additionally, Brianna Miller has accepted another position and left DCA on June 10th. DCA appreciates the service and support Brianna and Carrie have provided to our boards and bureaus. They have both been a huge asset to the department. I'd like to assure you, though, that during this transitional period, DCA's Executive Office and Board and Bureau Relations will continue to ensure continuity of services to all DCA boards and bureaus. If you need anything, please contact DCA Member Relations email or call the DCA Executive Office directly. And lastly, board members are required to complete the Board Member Orientation Training, or BMOT, within 1 year of appointment and reappointment. The final training of 2022 will be offered on October 12th. Members can register through DCA's Learning Management System. BMOT is required for newly appointed and reappointed members, but it is available as a refresher for all members and executive officers. And again, please reach out to DCA Member Relations with any questions. As always, DCA is here to help, and if there's anything we can do to assist, please reach out. I'd like to turn it back over to the president.
Thank you, Mr. Clifford. It seems like DCA is going through a lot of transitions right now. I appreciate your update. And I wanted to open it up to the board. Any board members with questions for Mr. Clifford? I don't see any hands, but I'm scrolling through one more time. Okay, no questions at this time. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment?
We are now taking public comment on the DCA update. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take about 15 seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, shall we return to the agenda?
Yes, please. And thank you. Thanks again, Mr. Clifford, for your presentation and spending time with us this morning. We are moving on to the budget report. Mr. Glass-Steagall, please.
Good morning, board members. Included in your meeting materials is agenda item 7, which is the budget report. In the governor's 2021-2022 budget, after the January 10th, 2022 changes, the board has an appropriation of $7,171,000. When fiscal year 21-22 closes, the board is estimated to revert roughly 2.98% of its budget, or $214,041. The current fiscal year that we are in, which is the 22-23 fiscal year, the board has an appropriation of $7,603,000. And this is informational purposes only, and included for your review is the budget report through fiscal month 11. This is for the last fiscal year, so 21-22. The board's fund condition and projected versus actual expenditures and revenues. As always, I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Glass-Steagall. I'm opening it to the board. Any board members have any questions regarding the budget report for Mr. Glass-Steagall? I'll just wait a few more seconds.
I believe Dr. Cervantes has her hand raised.
Does she? Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Hello, Dr. Cervantes. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I have a quick or a couple of questions. First, on page 45 of our combined packet, there is a line for facilities. It's 5324 is the fiscal code for that. And there's a big difference there from what's budgeted to what is actually projected to be spent. And I wondered if you could shed some light on that, Mr. Glass-Steagall.
I can. Well, I can take a guess, and then anything more specific, I can definitely get back to you. So facilities, the budgeted line item looks like it is 153,000. Projections to your end are 235,449. My assumption is this is our rent, and my another assumption is that there was plans with the Department of Consumer Affairs to do budget change proposals for all programs that where rent budgeted amounts for rent did not match the expenditures. And that was a couple of years ago, and I don't know if those ever ended up going through, but I'm happy to check on that line specifically and get back to you. I just don't know if our budget analyst is tuning in right now checking the users right now to see. Oh, Camilio, yes. Let me promote Mr. Branch, who's our budget analyst. Or Mr. Bowie, can you, instead of promoting, can we allow public comment so Mr. Branch can speak?
We can, but it does not appear that Mr. Branch has a microphone connected.
Looks like I see headphones on my end.
If you have a mute button next to Mr. Branch, push that to send him a request to unmute.
There we go. I think that worked. Mr. Branch?
Hi there.
Thank you very much for joining us. Can you speak to the facilities line and the budgeted versus actuals? Oh, it looks like Ms. Munoz is going to jump in and join.
This is not. We appear to have lost Mr. Branch.
I believe Ms. Munoz is going to join in. That's his manager. In the interim, Dr. Cervantes, would it be okay if I answered Ms. Sorik's question while Ms. Munoz is joining?
Oh, I just have another quick.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Is that okay, Ms. Sorik?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. On page 46, I just wasn't sure if I was reading this right. Under our renewal fees, it looks like we're projecting less revenue coming in from renewal fees for 23-24 than we had in 21-22 and 22-23. I'm sorry, 21-22 and 20-21. Am I reading that correctly?
You are reading that correctly, although everything prior to 22-23 was just in the one line, whereas 22-23 and 23-24 has the two renewal lines. So that's the 3585 and 922.
Oh, I see. And I imagine for 2021 and 21-22, these are actuals, but we're looking at projections. So,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And the way they tried to do it was to assume how much was going to maintain from the previous, fiscal years, how much money out of that, and only address the increase, the increased revenue in the red. That will eventually work itself all out, and it'll just be in one line again.
Okay. So that's all the questions I have. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Are there any other board questions for Mr. Glass-Steagall?
This is Dr. Harpsheets, but I know Ms. Sorik and Mr. Fu had their hands raised before me. So I'm happy to wait until they've asked their questions.
I think Ms. Sorik was waiting patiently.
It also looks like Ms. Munoz is in the attendees list. Would you like me to request to unmute her?
Yes.
Sent.
And while you're doing that, this is Antoinette. I just wanted to invite Mr. Branch to speak to the more updated figures that you all would have received in my executive officer's report. And this is the information about how much is going to be leaving a balance at the end of the fiscal year. The amount is significantly higher than what was in the meeting materials, and it's based on just more recent information. So I wanted to invite Mr. Branch to speak to that figure if he can.
You might be on mute if you are speaking.
I've sent him a request to unmute.
Oh,
Hi there. Sorry about that. It seems like I'm having some difficulties with the mute function here. Okay, so we had our final, our actual numbers come in for this fiscal year, and we are significantly lower on our expenditures. And I believe Ms. Sork spoke to that. And so for your end of year, you're going to have 6.795 million as your expenditures, and your revenues. Your revenues are going to be 4.5 million. And so that's going to change your fund condition statement accordingly. And I can get you an updated one so you can actually see the numbers in which I'm referring to. And it should increase your fund balance by a few months in reserve. Again, I can get you those updated actuals after this meeting.
thank you. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Let's see. Mr. Fu, did you have a question?
I did, but I just want to pause for a moment. Did we get the answer that Dr. Cervantes asked about specifically with regard to the budget facilities difference? And I think that was why we had asked folks to unmute themselves, because Mr. Glass-Steagall had provided some 35,000 foot level context, but I think we were looking for more specific, and I just don't want to get lost because we went to a conversation about fund balance instead.
And Ms. Munoz is on the line and able to provide that update on the
Perfect.
facilities.
Ms. Munoz, are you unmuted?
This is the moderator. We've asked her to unmute again.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Moderator, are you able to successfully?
We seem to be having a little bit of a difficulty. Ms. Munoz, I have brought you up into the panelist list so you can unmute at will. All right, I see that you've unmuted. I saw your microphone flash, but no sound came out. Hold on just a moment. I'm going to bring up a technical slide to see if we could possibly help this along.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Sorry about that. Hi, Karen Munoz. I'm one of the budget managers. So for facilities line items, Jason was correct. You guys do have a budget line item for facilities for $153,000. It is not uncommon for a program, a board or bureau to overexpend in that line item. That is that's a line item where we don't see very much change in budget. However, with cost of living and prices going up, facilities costs do go up annually. So he is correct. We did have a budget change proposal a couple of years ago. It did go through, but it only went through for a handful of programs where there was nothing that could be done, or some programs that were severely under budgeted in that specific line item. With that said, if the board is still within their budget, it's not uncommon for a program to overexpend in one line item anyway. It is a line item that we can adjust internally if need be. It would be a net zero change. So we would take something from general expense to increase your line item budget. It's not too much of a concern. We're less than $50,000 overexpending in that line item, but we will see an increase in expenditures in facilities every year as the cost for your monthly rent does increase annually than what you're budgeted in that line item. So it would be a technical adjustment in-house to do. Is that enough explanation for that line item?
Thank you. The reason that I brought this up is that we're having broader discussions about structural deficits, and so we need to be transparent about costs and where those may be different sometimes than what we anticipate when we make projections. I just thought it was important to raise that particular item because it's not like our staff is renting commercial space. We are in commercial space, I should say, but it isn't that they have we don't have the resources or ability to go and occupy a different or rent or lease a different office space. We are with DCA or we're a part of DCA, and there's different operational reasons why that's important that we're in the same facility. But nevertheless, I thought it was important to raise the issue. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for the question, Dr. Cervantes, and thank you, Ms. Munoz, for being available. And thanks to Mr. Fu for bringing us back around to the original question. Mr. Fu, did you actually have a question?
I did. I just wanted to make a comment, actually more than a question, which was I think I heard earlier that we're getting a couple months added to our fund balance reserve. I would just wanted to say though, if we're looking at projections for 24-25, we're looking at a fund balance that's in the negative, and so this is part of the reason why the board is exploring and is pursuing various opportunities to address this fund balance deficit going forward in 24 and 25, and that without the appropriate resizing of the fees to reflect the 3 decades of relative flat fees, that there are consequences down the line for that. And so I didn't want to leave the impression that we are that the reversion over the last couple of years, or this year as well, somehow puts the board in a better fiscal position going into 2 fiscal years from now. So that was my comment more than a question. Thank you, Dr. Tate.
And thank you for clarifying that for everyone. Dr. Harpsheets?
Thank you, Dr. Tate. Just piggybacking on what Mr. Fu was just saying, I am wondering now on page 46, it does show the benefit of the renewal fee increase and other licensing fees increased, and yet we're still looking at a concerning reserve balance. And I wondered, Mr. Glass-Steagall, if maybe you could just tell us again, kind of remind us some of the other options we have to pursue improving our reserves, some of the things that maybe we're looking at, just as a reminder.
Absolutely. What you see reflected on page 46 is just the increased revenue from the change to the statutory fee cap that went into effect July 1 of this year. That was only what we had available at the time that we could do internally. Starting next year, we are hopefully going to have a legislative proposal to make a new floor and ceiling. This was voted on by the board at the last meeting. And next year that we'll have to find a legislator to take the legislation and author it, and we'll start that at the end of this legislative year and the beginning of next legislative year. And hopefully that will be effective at the end of 2023. And then at the end of 2023, we can put in a regulatory fee change to match the bottom of the legislative, so to match the legislative floor. And that should bring us up to our current operating costs and fix our structural. And I'm happy to speak more about that.
So what's our ideal months in reserve? I know we're required to have a certain amount, but what is that and what's our ideal?
And I will defer to Ms. Munoz, but I believe it's anywhere between 3 and 6 months in reserve.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. That was really helpful.
My pleasure.
It looks like Ms. Munoz has your hand up. Would you like to respond?
Yes, hi, thank you. Jason is correct. We like to see the months in reserve between 3 and 6 months. And when we say 3 and 6 months, that remaining static. We don't want to see that you have a 3-month reserve here or 6 months in 1 year and then it's 3 months, because then you'll see that there is a trend down. And so that does raise concerns. But if we see a static 3 to 6 months in reserve, then we know that we're a balanced fund. And so we're seeing revenues coming in that is similar to expenditures going out. So 3 to 6 months is a very healthy reserve. I also wanted to just clarify on when we mentioned the updated fund condition for when we updated expenditures to fiscal month 12 and actuals for this year. I believe what Camille was meaning to say was that it did increase your months in reserve, but more so as in like it's a 0.1 months in reserve. So it's not a few months in reserves, it's a fraction. So it is an increase in months in reserve, it's still fractional. And so the board is actually still doing things correctly, increasing potential fees and going through the motions that they need to be doing, because there is still a decline in the fund. So it is an increase. Any savings that you have, any savings would increase your months in reserve. And that's what we like to see when we are in these processes of looking at changes to your revenue incoming. So few months, it did change, but it changed by a fractional of a month, more so like 0.1 or 0.2 for the savings as of fiscal month 12.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. Any other board comments, questions? I'm doing a very slow scroll through the list.
Dr. Tate, may I make another comment?
Absolutely.
I feel this conversation a little bit more closely, probably with Dr. Phillips, because we were in these conversations with DCA budget several years ago, or a few years ago, when there was a change in forecast from a reversion to a deficit. And I just want to make a comment here that while the goal is to maintain a 3 to 6 month reserve, the board was explicitly told to keep a structural imbalance to spend down those reserves. And so while the board has taken steps to manage our funds appropriately, we were asked to take on additional roles and responsibilities without increasing the fees, without increasing the budget appropriation we received. And so part of the reason why, from a historical perspective, we're seeing a decrease in our fund balance reserve over the last few years is because we did not receive the necessary updates to our budgets from the relevant departments. And so for the context, which I think is really important for this conversation, as we go into these discussions about the fund condition and where we're headed, it's key to note that the board has been explicitly told not to increase their budgets or not receive the additional resources needed to maintain the fund balance, but to spend it down so that we could seek these additional resources. I may have paraphrased a bit there, and so would certainly welcome any additional nuances that Ms. Sorek may be able to provide, but wanted to just say that given the audience we have today.
Well, thank you. And your historical context is important since you've been with the board so long and have had these discussions in the past. I appreciate it. Ms. Sorek, would you like to add to Mr. Fu's comments?
No, I just, we will be having a presentation. We typically have it in February, but I think it would be best if, based on the discussion today, we go ahead and have a more thorough presentation at our November meeting, especially due to the fact that by that time we will have, and Mr. Glass-Steagall can correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll have a better understanding of what our end of the fiscal year, like liquidations on contracts and agreements were, what the impact of the fee increase in the regulations has had on the board's fund, and it'll be a better opportunity for the board to talk with not just board staff about the budget, but the department staff about the budget, and we can have a meeting beforehand to go through some of those details. So I just wanted to offer that up, and just kind of looking forward at a deeper presentation on this in November with a little more information.
I think that would be helpful. So thank you for the suggestion, and if we can fit it in, let's do that. I think it'd be. Any other board comment at this time? Mr. Fu, do you have more comments? Is your hand up?
I'm lowering it. Thank you.
Okay. And I'm looking. I do not see any other board comment, but interrupt me if I'm missing you. Mr. Moderator, can we please open up public comment for the budget report?
Absolutely. We are now taking public comment on the budget report. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. While I see no request for public comment, Ms. Tate has her hand up.
I don't. I'm trying to lower it.
Still seeing no.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
My apologies. Still no request for public comment. Would you like to return to the agenda?
Yes, please, and thank you. Thank you, Mr. Glass-Steagall, Ms. Munoz, and budget staff for answering our difficult questions. And hopefully we can have a more in-depth conversation in November. So thank you. We are moving on to agenda item number 8, which is a presentation by Health Professions Education Foundation on licensed mental health services provider education program and mental health loan assumption program. Our presentation will be provided by Michelle Crouch, who's the program officer for the Department of Healthcare Access and Information. Ms. Crouch?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. First of all, we no longer have the mental health loan assumption program. That sunset in 2017.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's been gone for a little while now. But I will present on the Licensed Mental Health Services Provider Education Program. I know that's a long name. We call it LMH for short. Am I able to share my screen, or do you guys have the PowerPoint presentation I provided you guys?
I think our moderator can put it up.
I have given you permission to share your screen.
Oh, you have? Okay, how do I share my screen?
At the bottom in the center,
Bottom in the center.
Is a button called Share. And you're probably going to want to
Okay,
share.
Share, okay. Screen. Can you see my screen?
Not just yet.
Oh, not yet?
Not yet.
I also have it up and am able to share if you would like me to.
Share, okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. So I am Michelle Crouch. I'm a program officer and I administer the licensed mental health program along with 2 other people. This will be an overview and this just shows us the contents of this PowerPoint. I'll be going over the eligible professions, the practice sites, along with the award summary for fiscal year 2021-2022, our budget overview, and then basically how to apply. Okay, a little bit of background. Department of Health Care Access and Information. Every Californian should have access to equitable, affordable, quality health care provided in a safe environment by a diverse workforce. As California's healthcare needs expand, HCI is now responsible for managing an array of programs that grew quite substantially in this last year's budget, including new areas of workforce development. This program was established in 2007 to increase the supply of mental health professionals practicing in mental health professional shortage areas and facilities. The grantees must commit to provide a 24-month service obligation at a qualifying facility in either an eligible facility type or a geographic area where they will need to provide 32 hours or more per week of direct client care. The maximum award amount has been increased from $15,000 to $30,000, and applicants can be awarded up to 3 times. These are our eligible professions. The ones in bold have been added this last cycle: the behavioral disorder counselor, the mental health counselor, psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, your psychiatric nurse, rehabilitation counselor, and the substance use disorder counselor. Here's a list of our eligible practice sites. We've added children's hospitals, the unified school districts, your publicly funded facilities, and those, of course, located in a mental health shortage area. We've also added substance use disorder facilities, and I think that was it. Okay, Board of Psychology fund balance. As of June 2022, we had $263,480 in licensure fees that had been deposited from the Board of Psychology into the Mental Health Practitioner Education Fund. Funds deposited into this fund are used to provide awards and to cover administrative costs. Eligible licensed mental health professionals may be awarded using funds from this Mental Health Practitioner Education Fund. Other eligible professions must be awarded using other supplemental funds. In other words, the money that you guys deposit into this fund are only used to fund psychologists. Here's a budget overview. It shows the program, the funding source. These are all of our sources, including from Board of Behavioral Sciences and then Board of Psychology. And it shows the available funding for fiscal years 2020 to 2021, 2021 to 2022, and then of course this last cycle, which is currently open through October 31st. Here's a little award summary. The number of applications received were 427. We were able to award 377. It shows what the available funding was and then the amount we awarded. This, of course, Board of Psychology is included in there. Okay, now specifically, here are the Board of Psychology award summary. for the 3 fiscal years. And as you can see, in 2021, 2022, out of 29, we were able to award 17 using your funds. The next year was 30, we were able to award 10. And then 77 in 2019, 2020, we were able to award 6. Now, the remaining people were awarded using the additional funds we had received. So mind you, everybody that applied that was eligible to receive an award received an award. And it has been that way for the last 3 years now. Okay, during the application cycle, applicants must complete an online application through our web-based e-app. They must include the following documents with their application: employment verification form, a lender statement, conflict of interest letter if applicable, and proof of licensure and or certification. Oh, and that is it. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Crouch. Let's open it up to the board, and I see that Ms. Nystrom has a question.
Hi, Ms. Crouch, real quick. When on the slide it showed that it was a maximum of $30,000 that could be, and then the next bullet point said that it could be awarded up to 3 times. I'm just curious. Is it like 3 times you could be awarded $10,000, or is it 3 times you could be awarded $30,000?
No, 3 times they can be awarded $30,000. So that would be a total of $90,000 we're giving them to pay their educational debt. Now, of course, if their educational debt is under $30,000, then we'll award up to the $30,000.
That's helpful. Thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Fu.
Thank you, Dr. Tate. Could we turn to the slide that says award summary for the Board of Psychology, please?
This one?
Yes, please.
Uh-huh.
So a quick question here around, I think what I heard from you when you presented is that every applicant who meets the eligibility requirements and the scoring requirements receives an award. Is that correct?
Correct, but only because these past several years we've had additional funding from other sources.
And so, got it. So only in these 3 fiscal years shown here, is that correct? Or in the last?
Correct. This is just from the licensure fees, right?
Could you share with us a potential explanation for the number of awards relative to the number of applications received? So was the 1920 applications received consistent with pre-pandemic times in terms of the number of awards? And did the quality of the applications improve in 2021 in terms of the awards, the number of applications awarded? I'm just trying to get a better understanding.
Right. For the last 3 years, with the exception of this, the current application cycle that we're in, this application cycle that we're in right now, we have modified our online application. No longer do we require personal statements. And of course, the award amount was increased. The previous years, beginning in 2019, we had a lot of additional funding from other sources, okay? So what the slide shows you is these are the number of applications we received from psychologists, the number that we were able to award out of the funds deposited by Board of Psychology. The remaining 12 were funded from other sources, okay? And no, in answer to your question, have the applications declined in quality? No, they have not. Does that answer all of your questions?
Oh, well, I think the question was, did the applications...
I can't hear you.
Apologies, is this better?
Yeah, better.
I think the question was more, did the application quality increase? Because I'm noticing that the numbers of applications received decrease over time, but the
Right.
number of awards increased over time. So I'm wondering if there's inverted relationship where
You know, Board of Psychology, I think we've always received around the same amount of applications. 2019, there were a lot. And I mean, I think I provided statistics to Antoinette, you know, going way back to like the beginning, like 2012 or whatever. And the number of applications that we receive from psychologists have not decreased. They relatively have remained around the same. Now, of course, previously, we were never able to award everybody that applied. And we had to do so in a manner, you know, based on their scoring, based on the location, the area that they were in. If that area was a higher need area, then maybe that person would have received the award versus someone in LA, where there are many, okay? But like I said, now we have the additional funding. We're able to award everybody that applies.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Fu?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Rogers, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Dr. Tate. Ms. Crouch, thank you so much for your presentation today. I had a question on slide number 6, I believe it is.
Okay.
Let's
this
see.
one?
Yes, I was just curious about the health professional shortage area.
Right, yes.
How do applicants find out information about that particular site?
You know, we have our geo site that, you know, you can type in an address and it tells you the different locations. If it's a mental health shortage area, if it's a primary health care shortage area. But most people don't know to use that. So a lot of times they'll call us up and we'll help them. You know, they give us an address and we'll look it up for them. I think mainly the problem comes when it's a nonprofit and they're just not sure, which I don't blame them. But yeah, the nonprofit private mental health facility. And a lot of times they end up being in a mental health shortage area, so they automatically qualify.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It.
Any other questions?
Dr. Kasuga.
Hi, thank you. I'm just would like to know the application period. So some of the people here that are participating would know.
Okay. Yeah, our cycle is currently open. It opened May 15th and it will remain open through October 31st.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other board comment? And I'm scrolling through. If I've missed you, please interrupt me. Okay, I do not see any other board comment. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment?
Absolutely. We are now accepting public comment and will be displaying on the screen momentarily. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And our first request comes from Jolinder Crow. Hold on just a moment. We are sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Dr. Joe Linder Crow with California Psychological Association. I'm just curious, thank you for that presentation. Can you just say again how, I'm sorry if I missed this, how do people typically find out about the opportunity to apply for grants?
Word of mouth. We do have our YouTube accounts, but pretty much word of mouth. And of course, Board of Psychology. Hopefully you have flyers out. I wish we had a little more control over the marketing part. I wish we were able to get out more than what we do.
Does this go into the journal? This would be for maybe this BOP staff. Is information about this included in the journal, for example?
That I think Antoinette could probably answer better.
We do a profile for the recipients of the reward in each of our journals, but it's been some time since we've had a how to apply. We did have at one point, and maybe Mr. Glassbeeble can help me with this. When we used to send out our renewals, we had a insert in our large renewal packet, which we don't do anymore, which had a advertisement for how to apply for loan repayment. Once we went to a postcard, which saved money and the environment, that advertisement went away. So maybe Ms. Crouch, you and I can double back after the meeting and talk about some other options. Maybe we can do like a quarterly or some kind of message to our licensee list, just reminding them, or annual, I don't want to.
Yeah, we also have, we've had webinars, and I know that we send out monthly announcements to stakeholders that are signed up with us. We just hired a marketing director, so that person will be responsible for getting, materials out into the community. Okay.
Thank you for that. And Ms. Sorek, if you did, if you and Ms. Crouch come up with anything, we do a magazine 4 times a year that goes to all of our members, and we often have room for like a house ad of some kind, and we might be able to put something in there as well. And I think that might be helpful.
That would be great, and I can connect Antoinette and then our person that we hired. That would be great.
That would be great. Yeah, and then we can connect on
Definitely.
that. Thank you.
Definitely. Antoinette, I will send you her email, and I'll let her know also. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for the comment.
Yes, thank you very much.
Our next request for comment comes from Melody Schaefer. Bear with us just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Dr. Melody Schaefer. I'm chair of the California Psychology Internship Council and chair-elect on Division II Education and Training for CPA. Ms. Crouch, as you may know, California Psychology Internship Council is a consortium of internship training sites, which would definitely fit in with this. And previously, we have had funds through the state, which gave stipends for a similar reason through the WET program. I'm wondering at this point to facilitate this further through CAPIC and to let our sites know, which are predominantly publicly funded sites and such that fit your categories, to help facilitate it. Do you have a website address that you could give for the HPSA MH so that I could help sites figure out if they meet the geographic
right.
Yeah, that would help not have everyone call you. In other words, I could
True. We have our regular website, the HCI website, but then you would have to navigate to somewhere else. John Madriz is also present. John, would this be possibly the WET email or website? Okay.
I sent him a request to unmute his microphone.
Okay.
There we go.
Or if he hasn't unmuted, you can send me an email and I will respond. My email is microuch@hcai.ca.gov, and I'd be more than happy to let you know what those websites are.
Thank you so much, Ms. Crouch. I
You bet.
appreciate it.
You bet. I'm sorry I couldn't give you an answer right now.
No problem.
Any other questions or public comments?
At the moment, there are no more requests for public comment.
Okay. I want to thank you very much for allowing me to present to you.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, and we appreciate the information.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Thank you. Try to stay cool.
Thank you. So that concludes agenda item number 8. And Mr. Moderator, can you please close the public comment? So before jumping to agenda item number 9, let's take a 10-minute break and come back at 10:35. Ms. Fruteau, can you just please call the roll?
Yes. Kasuga.
Here.
Cervantes.
Here.
Harb Sheets.
Here.
Fu.
Aye.
Nystrom.
Here.
Phillips. Riscate.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Tate.
Here.
Repeating Phillips.
Let's wait a few more seconds for Dr. Phillips. So we do have a quorum, so we will be moving forward with agenda item number 9. This is the licensing report in consideration of committee recommendations. Dr. Harb Sheets is the chairperson of this committee. Dr. Harb Sheets.
Thank you, Dr. Tate. Before we get into the specific reports, I'd just like to say a few words. Over these past months, I have observed Ms. Chung's attentiveness to the concerns regarding the licensing processing timeframes and her commitment and diligence in addressing these issues. As well, I've seen the board staff make necessary accommodations to facilitate the changes to reduce the licensing processing timeframes. I want to say thank you to all of them, both as a board member and as a psychologist who has directly seen the need to increase the number of psychological providers to meet the unprecedented demand for mental health services in California. And additionally, I would like to thank the California Psychological Association for undertaking the survey of members and providing those results to the board so that we can better understand the specific experiences of people in the licensing process and therefore better serve the consumers of California. We will now go through the various licensing reports, address an option the licensing section is proposing to help shorten the licensing process regarding pre-licensure coursework, and then hear from Ms. Chung regarding short and long-term solutions to the licensing timeline process. So if Ms. Chung, could you take over from here?
Thank you, Dr. Harb Sheets. I'm going to make my licensing report right now. Thank you. Good morning, board members. As of August 1st, we have 22,313 licensed psychologists and 1,596 registered psychological associates. It includes 775 current psychologists and 38 psychologists who are in the inactive status. So you may find more details in attachment A, the licensing population report. This report provides a snapshot of the number of psychologists and psychological associates in each status at the time the report was generated. For your information on delinquent status that you see on the report, it could include psychologists who haven't renewed, and there may be also psychologists who no longer want to maintain their licenses. And psychologist license will automatically be canceled after expiring for 3 years. And the psychological associate registration will automatically be canceled after 60 days from the date of expiration if it's not renewed. By comparing to the last report made at the April board meeting, the number of psychologists who hold a current license decreased by 20, and the number of current psychological associate increased by 28. In attachment B, you will find the workload reports for both psychologist license and psychological associate registration applications from February through July. It shows that the number of transactions relating to initial licensure that are being worked on in Breeze has spiked in June and July. So we have observed a similar pattern for the past year, but we still speculate that the spikes is due to graduating season that has contributed to the influx as individuals or students, they are ready to accrue hours or to embark on the licensure process by applying for eligibility to take the examination for licensure. In attachment C, the numbers of applications and notifications received are provided for a 12-month period from August 2021 through July this year. The number shows an overall increase of about 300 applications and 100 notifications compared to the same 12-month period as reported in year 2020 and 2021. Following that would be the 6-month overview of average processing time frames is provided to you in business days in attachment D. We observed a decreasing trend in average processing time frames for psychologist applications in June for all processes. The decreasing trend continues for the EPPP eligibility review and the review of supporting documents and responding to correspondence. There's a slight increase in the average processing timeframes by 1 or 2 business days for the complete request process, as well as for the request for initial license process in July comparing to June. As for psychological associate registration, we have observed a decrease in wait times since our last report made to the board in April. The decreasing trend continues for the notification process, but we have observed an increasing trend for the application and fluctuation in the processing times in reviewing supporting documents and responding to correspondence. This could due to the impact from receiving full-time temporary help in April as compared to we were only able to get half-time temporary help in later months. And this concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions if there may be any. Thank you.
Let's open it up to the board members. Any board questions? I've scrolled through. I'll scroll through one more time. Oh, I see Dr. Cervantes. There it is.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chung. I have a couple of questions, one regarding attachment B and one regarding attachment C. On attachment B, I just want to make sure I'm interpreting the data correctly. In the data set to the right, where it says initial applications for psychology licensure, there is a red bar for June that says there's 198, and for July, 185. And I think I heard you say that this may be seasonal because that's when graduation is. My question is, does this also reflect a backlog? Because there's like it looks like there's a backlog of open applications I guess that's my question. Does it reflect a backlog?
Thank you, Dr. Cervantes. That's a good question. Thank you. This report, it reflects the transaction that staff worked on, and allow me to explain a little bit more technical details here. And I hope that is that's not going to be too confusing. So for the bars on the right-hand side, regarding initial application for psychology licensure is also actually a tag on from the step when exam eligibility for APPP is approved. So some of the red bars are created when we approve eligibility for APPP. There's a reason to that, because when we approve the eligibility, we need to create a transaction as shown in the red bar for the examination scores to land. So that is an essential transaction that we need to open to allow the future scores coming into our system to have a place to be. So the red doesn't necessarily mean that is a backlog, but is a capture of is a reflection of how many applications how many eligibilities being approved, and it will also include any application request for initial license that we worked on, but we are not able to approve due to deficiency or missing information.
So you're saying this is new applications and applications that the red bar represents new. Let me rephrase that. The red bar represents new applications and applications that have gone through that are at a phase, at a different phase. For example, they're approved to take the EPPP. So it just reflects more. It just reflects. It's really a reflection of open applications, not just new applications. I guess that's the clarification.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Cervantes, I wonder, this is Dr. Harp-Sheets. I wonder, I think Ms. Chung has talked before about how much of the process is dependent on documentation coming in from the applicants themselves. And Ms. Chung, does the red bar in the initial application for psychology licensure, since that is the last step, is the red bar the number of open applications perhaps in part so large because of all that documentation that you're waiting for?
It could be. Actually, let me try to explain it a little bit better. So the red bar includes, it's like a placeholder, some of the transaction, because when we approve the EPPP eligibility in the first step, we have to create this transaction for the last step as a placeholder for information coming in to the system to land, such as exam scores. So it could and it could also include deficient application that we worked on for this last step. So there are two groups here. I hope that makes sense. If not, I can set up individual meetings with Dr. Cervantes or any board members that would like to know the process, and I could explain all the technical details there.
I think that makes sense about it being a placeholder, because that means it's sitting there for quite a while waiting for information. That makes sense to me. But how about for you, Dr. Cervantes?
I understand it. I guess maybe this table can use like a caption or some kind of, because it just kind of like those two bars there on the right, they just stand out so much.
They get your attention for sure.
Yeah. So that's just on that one. And then I just have another quick question on attachment C. You might have said this, but maybe I just didn't capture it. So there's the second rectangle with the bars says there's a total of 946 psychological associate applications and 605 notifications received. What is this notification?
Thank you. So the notification is for existing psychological associate who wants to make changes to their primary supervisors or location where they worked at.
So the associate applicant, this is a notification they send to us.
Correct. So this is for psychological associate registrant who already have a registration in hand, but they need to change a supervisor or change where they work. So they will notify us so that we can review the qualification for the primary supervisor and associate them with their registration if it's approved.
Okay. Okay. Those are my two questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board comment? And I'm scrolling through slowly. I don't see any. If I have missed you, please interrupt me. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment?
Absolutely. We are open for public comment on item 9. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And it looks like our first request comes from Melody. Hold on just a moment. We are sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Yes, hi, Dr. Melody Schaefer. Regarding the time to renewal, when psychological associate submits their paperwork at the end of the year, I don't see any date on that. How long does that take? Because that can be a sticky wicket for supervisors where they're waiting for that paperwork to get approved for the additional time extension.
Dr. Schaefer, thank you for your question. I don't oversee the renewal process and I don't currently have the data in hand, but I'm going to defer to Mr. Glass-Steagall if he might have better data.
I'm sorry, Dr. Schaefer, can you repeat the question?
When a psychological associate comes to the end of their period for renewal, they have to renew at the end of a year, to reestablish their position. How long does that take for approval on the average? Do you have any statistics on that? Because that goes to your office. It's a form that's submitted.
The fastest way to renew is via Breeze Online, and those are done generally instantaneously. If forms are received, the longest part is cashiering. And to answer your question, I don't have any statistics available off the top of my head, but around the end of the fiscal year, the cashiering takes a little bit longer. So if there was any holdups, it is generally somewhere between the end of June or the middle of June to the middle of July. There can be like a 4-week delay in processing any payments that are received via check in our office. But without those, the delay is usually no more than a few days. I would say 2 business days.
You mean with the electronic submission?
Oh, electronic submission, it's generally just right away.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Other than electronic submission, the cashiering process with the Department of Consumer Affairs generally takes around, I would say, 2 to 3 business days for checks to clear. And then once they clear, the transaction can process. And generally, it takes minimal or no involvement of psychology staff, actually. And it just does it all generally by itself in 3 to 5 business days when we receive the application. I can't, speak to mail times. But
Thank you
always,
so much.
everyone, please renew on Breeze. It's much faster.
Thank you, Mr. Glass-Steagall.
Okay. Do we have any other public comments, Mr. Moderator?
Next, we have Dr. Elizabeth Winkleman. Hold on just a moment. We are going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
Elizabeth Winkleman with the California Psychological Association. I just wanted to confirm that the time for discussion and comment about the wait times, including the CPA surveys, would that be on item number 10? So not now, but on the next item? Just wanted to confirm that we will have the opportunity to comment about that.
Yeah, Dr. Winkleman, this is Dr. Harbsheets, and yes, that is correct. When we do item number 10, that will be the time to address the CPA survey results and the presentation of the update by Ms. Chung on timeframe processing.
Great, thanks very much, Dr. Harbsheets.
Sure. Do we have any other public comments?
Next, we have Jolinder Crow. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hi, thank you. It's a question, really. We're not seeing any slides, and I wondered if we didn't see. I know I see them in the materials, but are you showing? Will you be showing Ms. Chung's presentation in the next item, so that the viewers can see it?
Dr. Linda Crow, do you mean the presentation for item 10? Oh, that should be showing. Is that correct, Mr. Glass-Steagall? When we get to item 10,
right.
Definitely. But Dr. Linda Crow, are you seeing these attachments?
No.
You're not seeing those?
No. We're just seeing the item itself is just the slide that has the item and the description of the item, but none of the material, we're not seeing the supporting materials. We have availability, but they're not showing on the screen.
Oh, Mr. Glass-Steagall, could you see what's going on with that? Those typically do show up, isn't that correct?
Our slideshow is just the agenda item names. We don't have materials also showing. This is the way we have at every meeting with the materials or the slideshow based on the agenda. You should all be seeing the open for public comment screen.
That's correct. That's what we're seeing.
Okay, yeah, and this is for agenda item 9. So for agenda item 10, I know Ms. Chung will be and staff will be sharing the slideshow.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. We have Dr. Matt Turner on the line, who is going to speak with us and only has just a few more moments to be with us about an update on EPPP2. So we are going to shift over to item number 12, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Kasuga. When that item is done, we will come back and finish item 9. Dr. Kasuga?
Thank you, Dr. Harbsheets. I am going to discuss the item number 12, which is the ASPPB, the Association of State and Provincial Psychology EPPP2 update with regards to the May 16 to 17, 2022 town hall meetings. And we have Dr. Turner in the line as well to add to the presentation and to answer board member and public questions. I just wanted to check Mr. Moderator to see if Dr. Turner has been promoted.
He has.
Thank you so much. So I just wanted to briefly talk about the summary of the town hall meeting reports and have Dr. Turner expand and answer some of the questions that may arise. So basically, the areas of concern that were addressed during the town hall meetings with regards to the EPPP2 is related to whether competency assessment is needed, whether the EPPP 2 is valid, questions about whether it's biased, as there have been claims about biases, and the questions about barriers. So in terms of the need, it seems like there has been a movement to a culture of competence in psychology, and ASPPB and membership recognized a need for skills assessment 15 plus years ago, and research and development of a competency-based assessment began. And with regards validation, EPPP development follows the guidelines established by the Standards for Education and Psychological Testing. And that was shared to the people that attended the town hall meeting. And then with regards to the question of biases, and this is something that Dr. Turner will be able to talk more about. There have been a lot of things that were put in place on the EPPP 2 with regards addressing that. And then in terms of barriers, there's the added cost of another test that will be put on licensees, and they address that by talking about reduced fee for the EPPP Part 2. So right now, I will welcome Dr. Matt Turner from ASPPB to add to the presentation and to answer questions. And also, it would be helpful, I think, for the participant of this board meeting to, if you can discuss a little bit about the stakeholders meeting and the process of how the stakeholders meeting was announced. So I'll give you the floor now.
Hi, Dr. Kasuga. I think your summary is good. We did have 2 town hall meetings for members, which are licensing boards, and 1 town hall meeting for stakeholders. We also have a recording that'll be available shortly, and we would send out that recording to any of the ASPPB liaisons. So that should reach the various stakeholders that way. I think since I am pretty limited on time, I do want to relay that the board is looking into what the future of the 2 is in terms of the initial proposal for the 1 and the 2 was for this to be 1 exam, and that's essentially how it's been built. And they are considering if they will make the 1 and the 2 essentially one exam to be used by all licensing boards. But they really wanted to get input from stakeholders, and so we have created an email called EPPP comments at asppp.org. And those come directly to me. So if you have any questions or concerns or things that need to be clarified, please use that. And with that, again, I apologize. I'm double booked today, so I'll answer any questions that you have, but I'll cut off my comments at that.
Dr. Turner, this is Dr. Harpsheets. I know as a board, we've been waiting to see when ASPPB will be making some decision regarding whether or not EPPP2 will be incorporated into just the overall EPPP and therefore become mandatory. And do you have any update on that?
If I had to take a guess, I know that the board wanted to make a decision this year. So I know that their next meeting is in October. So I think that is possible that they could make a decision at that point. I don't know that they have set a deadline for which to make that decision. I think they're trying to be thoughtful and to consider all viewpoints on this matter.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Turner.
Yeah, sure.
And as far as the Board of Psychology EPPP ad hoc committee is concerned, which Dr. Harpsheets and Mr. Fu is our committee members, we're still in a holding pattern in terms of when we'll be having that committee meeting, and it will be once we get more information, possibly from the ASPPB October meeting.
Okay, and I appreciate you letting me know, and I'm going to relay that on to the board of directors because I realized that, not just the state of California, but other licensing boards are waiting for a decision one way or the other.
Any other board questions for for Dr. Turner?
Looks like Ms. Snyder has her hand up, right?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
This question is for Dr. Turner, and it's just out of curiosity. As part of the survey you did, or ASPPB did, regarding the need for a competency-based exam for the skills portion of it, did ASPPB survey any boards and their disciplinary action, and whether or not those disciplinary actions were based on the skill or a lack thereof?
We do have data on disciplinary actions, and I think that there are, I couldn't tell you right offhand which actions were the most prevalent, and we have built some of that into the exam. With regards to disciplinary actions on competency, it's not necessarily based on how many disciplinary actions are out there. It's really more about ensuring that boards are licensing folks that have met a certain standard. It is very possible that there are people that do practice with competency issues that as a client, you may not know, or you may just determine that you didn't prefer this psychologist. So I don't know that that's the measure. Really, this was based on many years and a response to both the community's movement towards competency and then a known, at least lack of universal measure of skills. That's always been left up to the licensing boards to do on their own, and they do it different ways. So having a universal standard was seen as advantageous and really a tool for licensing boards to ensure that they're doing their job right.
Thank you, Dr. Turner.
Sure.
Any other board or staff questions? I apologize, I can't see hands raised or anything from my end.
Dr. Kasuga, I don't see any. I can see them on my end, and I don't see any.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Mr. Moderator, can we open it up for public comments and questions, please?
Absolutely. We are now open for public comments on this matter. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to return to the agenda?
Yes, thank you.
May I make one more comment? I just wanted to say thank you for your time, and I'm sorry that I was rushed in, just that I'm double booked today. But I do want to encourage anyone who has any questions or concerns to reach out to me individually or to the email which I referenced. I think the board really wants to be thorough in taking all perspectives on this, and I know that it's been something that not everybody is in agreement on. So I do read all emails that come, and I'm happy to respond to anybody that has a question.
Dr. Turner, can you repeat that email again that you provided?
Sure. It's EPPP comments@asppp.org. My personal email is mturner, as in Matt Turner, @asppp.org.
Thank you.
And I do thank you for your time. I really appreciate you giving me the forum.
Also, I just wanted to relay the information that I think Ms. Sorick has mentioned in previous board meetings, that for the board to make decisions or make any changes in our regulations, that would take a while. Can you talk about that a little bit, Ms. Sorick?
Sure.
We can, relay that information to through Dr. Turner.
Thank you, Dr. Kasuga. Yes, I mean, the longer the lead time, 3 to 4 years would be preferable. I know our state is not alone in that request, so we appreciate ASPBB being open to the member feedback on that.
Yeah, I 100% understand that, and I'll relay that information. I think it's very reasonable, should the board move forward, that there is a reasonable amount of time to change any kind of rules or laws if necessary. I don't think most jurisdictions need to change laws, but certainly there may be some rules changes that need to be done. So I recognize that, and I'll definitely relay that concern.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay. Dr. Tate or Dr. Harbsheets?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, we're here.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kasuga. Sorry, this is Dr. Harbsheets. Okay, we will go back to the agenda item number 9. Excuse me. And did we get all the public comments so far?
I believe that the box was still open when we transitioned.
Okay, so can we go back to that?
As far as 9 goes, we did not have additional requests for comments when we transitioned.
Okay, I think what we'll do is do the rest of the item number 9 and then take public comment on those items at the end of those, number B, C, D, and E. So if Ms. Snyder could please give us her report on multiple test takers.
Sure. Okay, so agenda item 9B is the monthly examination statistics. These are just annual numbers that we provide and post them on our website, and these numbers reflect 2021 and 2022. The data gives you the number of candidates that took the exam and the number of candidates that passed, and then their percentages and the percentages of first timers that also passed. And that's for both the EPPP and the CPLEE. We also provided a chart that depicts the total pass percentage for per month for 2020 and 2021, and 2022 for both exams. So for the EPPP, you'll note that the pass percentage would be between 30% and 50%. And then the pass percentage for the CPLEE would be it ranges between 60% to 80%. So does anyone have questions on this agenda item?
Ms. Snyder, will you be talking also about the past 5 years?
Yes, the multiple test takers, then that would be the next agenda item. Oh, it's the same agenda item. Never mind. Sorry. Okay, so the statistics for multiple test takers, the table that you see reflects multiple test takers for the past 5 years. Based on the data, there was a steady increase of EPPP test takers and multiple test takers in 2017 through 2019. A slight decrease of test takers did occur in 2020 and 2021. That decrease can be attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic, which resulted in a lot of exam cancellations, site shutdowns, and exam scheduling and rescheduling issues. The number of multiple test takers who passed and failed between 2017 through 2021 have been consistent. No noticeable deviations have been seen throughout the past 5 years. So if you look at the bar graph, you'll see it just gives you a better view of how our multiple test takers are doing. So you have the blue bar reflects the total test takers. The red bar reflects total multiple test takers for that year, and their pass and fail, and the pass and fail numbers. The board staff did reach out to ASPPB's Senior Director, Matt Turner, for feedback regarding California pass and fail rates, whether they are in line with the rest of the country. He explains that California has historically had a lower pass rate than other states. He suspects that there are two main factors, and one of them is California potentially has a higher percentage of individuals trained in doctoral programs that are not APA accredited than in other jurisdictions. Pass rates with APA accredited programs are much higher than non-accredited programs. Additionally, pass rates for first-time test takers have been around 82% for candidates from accredited programs and around 55% for candidates from non-accredited programs, with a combined first-time pass rate of around 75%. He also stated that repeat test takers who have taken the exam 4 or more times are less likely to pass the exams. Candidates who take it more than 4 times may result in lower pass rate overall. He also provided information specific to California, California candidates from accredited versus non-accredited programs and their pass rates. And so if you note that the first-time pass rates from accredited programs are about 71%, and non-accredited programs are around 41%. And that concludes my report. Does anyone have questions?
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. I wanted to also comment that multiple test takers refers to 2 or more. Sometimes when I hear the word multiple, I think 3, 4, but it's just not passing the first time.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. So any board member comments? I do not see any hands raised. So we will go on to the continuing education and renewals report.
Hi, I will be doing the continuing education and renewals report. So for CE audits for May and June 2022, they were sent out July 14th and they conclude on September 12th. The current pass rate for January through June 2022 CE audits is 57%, with 29% of audits not yet received. The pass rate from 2017 to 2020 has been consistently over 80%. The pass rate for second audits has been over 80% since 2017, with a 100% pass rate in 2021. I would like to congratulate the following board members on passing their CE audits: Dr. Tate, Dr. Kasuga, Dr. Harbsheets, and Dr. Rogers. For renewals between January through July 2022, 80% of psychologists renewed as active, and approximately 90% of psychologists and psychological associates renew their license online using Breeze per month. This concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or concerns.
Okay. Any board members with questions? I do not see any hands up. Thank you, Ms. McCochran. And we will go on to the board response to psychologist applications. This is the correspondence review. This is how our licensing unit corresponds with people in the licensing process. And in your packet, you should see the various letters. The licensure committee has reviewed these different letters, and we are presenting them and hoping to get any other feedback from board members about this correspondence, these various templates. If Ms. Chung, if you would like to go over just briefly and kind of remind us all what these different templates represent, and then we'll open it up for board member comments.
Happy to do that. In the attachment provided to you is the templates you see. We organize it in the three major steps when they apply for EPPP, the CAPLE, and the request for initial licensure. So for each step, you see a template for approval, what information that we provide with them when their eligibility is approved. And then you also see another template for when there is a missing information that we will let the applicant know what they're missing and needing to provide in order to meet the requirements so that we can approve them with the eligibility that they need. And then the same goes for the request for initial license process. We will provide with them information that is helpful to them upon approval of the license, and then we'll also let them know utilizing the deficiency template to let them know what is necessary for them to submit to us for review so that we can review them and approve their license.
Okay. Board member comments. I know Ms. Cervantes, you were particularly interested. So let's start with you, Ms. Cervantes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Dr. Cervantes. Sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Harbsheets and Ms. Chung. I really appreciate that you shared this with us. I just think it's important to have transparency because we talk about these communications and the different ways that we interact with applicants, but like, what does it look like? And so thank you for sharing this. There's a couple of things that come to mind as I reviewed my meeting materials in preparation for today. One is that if we think about the applicant who maybe has never experienced a licensing process before, these communications guide them through what we need as what we need as an agency, right? But if they've never done it before, it's hard to have context. And I think another real element is the pressure that an applicant feels to get on with their career and to work fully licensed. And so the reason I say that is because I think that can affect how they read and receive information. And so that's the educator in me. So, so here are just two thoughts that I have about these communications that I think would help applicants better understand our process and better help their applications through the process. So my 2 points of feedback on them. One is, I think it would be helpful if there was a timeline informing the applicant of something like, for example, in the first communication on the packet, let me just scroll up really quick. This on page 86 of our combined packet, it's the EPPP approval. If there was something, something here that said this was a first step, an important step, and then tell them the next step is will be for you to take the complete. It's like what I think happens to people who have never experienced licensing before is that they receive a communication like this and they do all this work to try to meet all the requirements that it says, and then you think that's it, but then you get this whole other communication of this whole other set of requirements, and it feels like it's a slow drip, not some like, oh my gosh, I'm frustrated because I don't know, like I sent all the stuff and then they sent me another letter and now I have a whole nother process. So some kind of like a timeline was like a timeline, not a time frame, like a timeline of like, this is first, then this part is going to be second, and then this part is going to be third, or whatever you all decide. That's just one suggestion. My other suggestion, point of feedback, is regarding to timeline. If we could give some kind of indication that on average, it takes an applicant 3 to 4 months to clear this process, and even go so far as to suggest that, you know, if it takes that long because you have to do stuff, you have to turn in documents, you have to respond to certain things. I think improving these communications, just in summary, I know that was maybe a little more long-winded than I thought, or that I would want to model, but
Dr. Cervantes, I wanted to respond to the second point that you made. This is something that came up during the more recent licensure meeting, and what we talked about doing was in the first letter that you see, the EPPP approval, and then the one that's titled EPPP deficiencies, that in the last line says, please reference the board's website with a link for current processing timeframes this information is updated monthly. So we were going to see, the licensing group was going to see if they could update it more frequently, because we were concerned about how the timeframes changed. So we were worried about putting in some specifics that people, we just didn't have that much control over. So if we could give them that link, update the information more frequently, they would know to get that information.
So what isn't, see, I'm reading this as a member of the public who is not, who has not experienced the licensure process myself.
Yeah.
And I feel, it feels like, it feels like a slow drip. I don't know how to describe it, but I don't get that full sense of what all this process is going to be over several months.
See, I think that goes back to your first comment. And in the initial letter, I think it's a great idea that in one of the initial paragraphs of that letter, like, for example, you're now approved to take the EPPP, that's the second paragraph. And maybe, at that, around that point in the letter, we could say, for your information, here are the steps that you will be going through. You're at the first step, you're approved to take the EPPP. After, here's the second step, and, give them that information. So it, like you said, it provides a context for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a great idea.
And my suggestions are coming from, I guess, and we'll talk about this later, but I would want to reduce misinformation, and reduce calls and emails.
Yeah,
because those are very frustrating, and I don't think we really have, like, with better communication we can be more proactive is what I want to suggest.
How about if you and Stefan and Ms. Chung and I have a meeting and we kind of work on these ideas and then put this on the agenda for the November meeting and bring it back to the group. Does that feel okay to you?
Sure. And then just one more question on this item. What happens to a file? We've talked about this before here in our board meetings. Yes, I just want to make sure that I'm saying yes to your offer about meeting later, and talking in more detail about what's in these communications. Now I'm going to ask one more question, and I know we've talked about this here on the board or here at our board meetings, but what happens to a file if a staff person changes? Is there a backup way that maybe someone else on the team can respond to that file and keep it moving forward? Because in these communications, we do direct the applicant to have contact with a person.
Yes, that I remember when we did talk about that, and Ms. Chung, correct me if I'm wrong, but when it's transferred, we try to make sure that there's no delay, and when it's transferred to the new person, that person notifies the applicant, and the file is placed in order so that they don't lose their place and have to kind of start over. Ms. Chung, is that correct?
Yes. It will retain its place in the queue after it's transferred. And then we try our best to notify applicants that assigned to an analyst who has left. And then when we received information from the applicant. If it's not assigned yet, we will be assigning it to another analyst because the process is application driven. So when we receive something, we will definitely reassign that file and put that in a queue for review. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Okay, so we'll be in touch, Dr. Cervantes, and set something up, and then we can put this on the November agenda and revisit it with the changes. Present that to the board and see what other feedback. Dr. Kasuga. Dr. Kasuga, do you still have a question?
Yeah, sorry, it took me a while to unmute. I have 3 things, very quick ones. One, I just wanted to echo the same things as Dr. Cervantes. I like the idea of giving applicants or the people that we're communicating with like a sense of where they're at. I think that you know, like I like the idea of a progress bar, like from start to finish. Like when I'm filling out forms, it's always helpful to get that sense of you're completing something, right? So on each step, just as an idea, but like I'm sure that with your brilliant mind, you'll be able to come up with something akin to that to just give people a sense of kind of like a visual frame of where they're at. My second point would be I'm looking at the forms, and on page 86, this is just like more of like a typo type of thing on the highlighted part. Said to me, it says said to me, but I think it's sir to me because the other places it says sir to me. So I just wanted to point that out, just a typo thing. And then my third point is I really appreciate this letters, and what I actually benefited from the most is clicking on the links. First of all, I wanted to make sure they work, and you know, most of them work. And then I appreciate the timelines, and if they're going to be updated frequently, then it's going to be very helpful. It wasn't that long ago that I was in this process. You know, it was like 9 years ago, I would say 10 years ago. But it, you know, I mean, seeing these forms, like it just brings back that experience for me. So I think that not knowing is really anxiety provoking for me. So being able to see what is being processed at least gives me a little bit of sense of like knowing that, you know, I'd be able to update that at any time or check the website at any time if it's being updated appropriately or accordingly or frequently enough. And then I was looking at one of the links. I was looking at the links for the accommodations for people with disabilities, the policies and procedures for the request for accommodations of disabilities, and I I don't know if I'm mistaken, but like I feel like Dr. Turner once mentioned that EPPP2 provides accommodations for, I mean, EPPP provides accommodations for those that don't have English as a first language or have kind of like language issues. Would that fall under evaluation of like is that number one, is that an accommodation that is made? Number two, would that be just like kind of like a case by case basis type of request, but it's there's a possibility that that can be accommodated because it's not on one of the explicit ones on the form.
Hi, Dr. Kasuga. This is Lavinia Snyder. I can respond to that. Okay, so the request for accommodations, the ones that require accommodations based on a disability, that's a different form. That's a form that they use. Now, there's also accommodations for English as a second language.
Okay.
And that's also posted on our website. And that's a different process that they have to go through. And we would have to approve them before and then pass on that information to ASBPB, and they will accommodate that request for our board. They don't typically, provide accommodations for ESL because it's not really considered a disability. But as far as we're concerned, since we approve it, all I have to do is let ASBPB know that we're accommodating this candidate with accommodations based on ESL. They will give them that accommodation.
Okay. Thank you. That's really helpful. So I guess that isn't on the form though. We have to go to the website. Is that?
Yes, the one the request, there's a form for request for accommodation based on English as a second language, and candidates who want to be considered for this would have to take a TOEFL exam, and they have to score 85 or below on that testing, and then they would have to give that evaluation report that evaluation to us. Typically, TOEFL sends me a certification directly if a candidate applies for one, and then at that point, I process it accordingly.
Okay, but that information is not available in the forms. As far as like like there's a link to the ESL information on the website.
Well, not a specific link, but the link itself is for in general. It brings you to that page. So it that page lists out everything that you need to know about accommodations, and that includes TOEFL if need be. So the link is just a general link to that page.
In what? I'm sorry. Can you refer to which part of the form? I'm just trying to figure out.
Okay, so there's a
where in the templates.
Okay, so in page 86, right below abandonment of a application, there is where it says request for accommodation, and there's a link there. It's not highlighted in blue, but that link is right there.
It's page 87 on mine.
Oh, is it 87? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So, because when I click on the link, it just takes me to the disabilities one.
Yeah.
So, okay. So when I on page the request for accommodation,
Oh, it does. You're right. It does just bring you to the form itself. Maybe we could ask Stephanie to change that and make it to direct it to the general page where it shows both the how to access the accommodation form or TOEFL.
Yeah. So that was the confusion for me because
you're right.
When I clicked it just took me to the disabilities one. Okay, so maybe we can make those changes. So people who might be interested in that type of accommodation will know how to request for those.
Okay, Dr. Kasuga, thank you. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or feedback from board members? I don't see any. Okay,
Dr. Harsheets.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Rogers. Yes.
Yes. Hi. Thank you. I have a question about the pre-licensure coursework. The first example I see where it's discussed is on page 87, where it talks about being able to provide proof of the coursework. It can come by transcript, coursework completion certificate, or a letter from the Department of Psychology chair. I was wondering if it's also possible for applicants, let's say, for example, if they can't get a certificate for completing the coursework, could they also submit a letter from the course instructor just as another option for them being able to verify a particular course that's been taken?
Well, Dr. Rogers, this discussion is in 9E. You've given a great segue.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so we will be talking about that. Ms. Marks, did you want to comment on this?
Yes, Dr. Harpsheets, thank you. I'm going to suggest that because to me it looks like this item might normally be before the licensing committee, and I understand the licensing committee is not going to be meeting until next year. Do you want to take public comment on this item? Because I might suggest that you have a motion for board delegation to you and Dr. Cervantes to me and address this issue in order to bring it back to the November meeting.
Oh, because it won't go directly to the licensing committee, so we should ask for a motion. Is that what you're saying?
That's my suggestion, yes.
Okay, let's do that. Would someone like to make that motion that Dr. Cervantes and I and Ms. Chung meet separately to go over these comments and then bring back a revised version that incorporates these comments to the full board at the November meeting?
So moved. This is Leah Tate.
Okay, second?
And second, Dr. Cervantes, second.
Okay. And Ms. Proto, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Harpsheets, I have a question. This is Mr. Fu.
Yes.
So can you name the numbers again? Did you just name yourself, Dr. Cervantes, and one more member?
Well, Ms. Chung.
Oh, okay. I thought you named 3 members. I apologize. Thank you.
Sure.
And Dr. Harpsheets, please do not forget to call for public comment before the vote is taken.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. So do we have any board comment first? Okay, let us open this for public comment, please.
We are now taking public comment on the motion. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to return to the motion?
Yes, please. Before we take the vote, are there any other board comments on this motion? Okay, I see no hands raised. Ms. Proto, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Kasuga.
Aye.
Cervantes.
Aye.
Fu.
Aye.
Harpsheets.
Aye.
Nystrom.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Riscate.
Aye.
Rogers.
Aye.
Tate.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, we will move on to item 9E, and this is a conversation that we had at the licensure committee meeting in July, and I will ask Ms. Chung to share with you what we are looking at and asking the board to consider approving.
Thank you, Dr. Harpsheet. This item is regarding the pre-licensure coursework verification method. Some background is about this item is that management held a licensing town hall with the licensing staff originally to solicit and brainstorm any creative solutions in addressing the lengthened processing time frames regarding our application. So one of the suggestions that came out from the town hall is to provide an additional verification method for our qualified psychologist license applicants. This verification additional method will allow them to show compliance of 2 two specific pre-licensure coursework, which is the suicide risk assessment and intervention course and the aging and long-term care course. So current language, it allows applicants to fulfill these requirements by showing proof in three ways. One would be obtained as part of their graduate degree program. Second is to obtain as part of their applied experience. And the third is by taking a CE course as specified in the statute. So when an applicant wanted to fulfill this requirement as part of their degree program, current language requires a written certification from the registrar or the training director for verification purposes. So staff believe that it will streamline the process if we are able to allow verification to be provided through a transcript if it clearly indicates the completion of the course, the specified coursework with the title shown, like the course title is clearly, we can tell on the transcript, we can allow verification that way. And of course, if we are unclear that the specific coursework is listed on the transcript, then the applicant would need to obtain a written certification to verify that their completion. So that's one suggestion. And then the other suggestion that staff made would be to allowing the department chair as an additional entity to be able to provide this written certification. So by all means, we are not intended to require the department chair per se to provide this written certification, but is to provide an additional option to applicants so that they can seek another person to provide such verification for them. And then so that's the background and suggestions, and the language is in the following pages for the board to review. Thank you. Back to you, Dr. Hopsheets.
Thank you, Ms. Chung. Okay, so let me open it up to the board for board comments. And I know Dr. Rogers just, shall we start with you because you brought this issue up? Would you like to comment at this point?
Oh, sure, Dr. Harbsheets. I was just thinking about the licensure process and how overwhelming it can be, and as we've talked about, the length of time it takes. And so I was just trying to think of additional ways for applicants to be able to provide proof that they have completed a course. So if they couldn't get a certificate, like I was saying before, could they just get a letter of some kind from the course instructor as another option, in addition to maybe getting a letter from the training director? I was just trying to think of other options and avenues for applicants. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Any other board member comments? Mr. Fu.
Thank you, Dr. Harbsheets, and I'm reminding to lower my hand now as I start speaking. Would you like us to make the board motion that we support the Licensures Committee request that the board approve the proposed amendments?
Yes, that would be very nice.
And I think also to delegate the authority to the executive officer to seek an author for legislation with regards to these requirements.
Yes. Are you making that motion?
I will make that motion.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Okay. Great. So we have a motion and a second. Any other comments from board members? I see no hands. Okay, let's open up for public comment on just this motion, and then we'll go back afterward and take public comments on items 9, B, C, and D. So this is a public comment for the motion that's on the floor to add this additional option of providing documentation of the pre-licensure coursework?
We are now open for public comment on the motion. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for comment, would you like to return to the motion?
Yes, please. Okay, do any follow-up comments from board members? I see no hands. So Ms. Proto, could you please call the roll?
Kasuga.
Aye.
Cervantes.
A very enthusiastic aye.
Thank you. Fu.
Aye.
Harbsheets.
Aye.
Nystrom.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Riscate.
Aye.
Rogers.
Aye.
Tate.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes. Now, I'd like to open the public comment box again for items 9B, multiple test takers, C, continuing education and renewals report, and D, the board response, the correspondence applications.
We are now open for public comment on the matter. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no requests, would you like to return to the agenda?
Yes, please. Okay, Dr. Tate, I know you mentioned wanting to do a lunch hour at noon, and we're close to noon. Would you like to do that? And after our lunch hour, come back to the item number 10, licensing timeframes update?
I do not think we're going to be able to do that. What I think we are approaching the lunch hour that I discussed earlier, but I do know that we have several people waiting for the presentation by Ms. Chung. So what I think we'll do is start agenda item number 10, and we may have to push lunch to the 12:20, 12:30 timeframe.
Okay, and we will include the CPA survey results in this presentation?
Yeah, she has, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, Ms. Chung, I turn it over to you, and thank you for your presentation, and we look forward to hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Harbsheets and Dr. Tate. Just to provide a little bit background, I'm gonna say a few words. So at the last board meeting in April, the California Psychological Association, CPA, requested the board to place its application processing timeframes on its next meeting agenda. As a response, the board has included the short-term and long-term solutions to its application backlogs to this meeting agenda, which is this item. To provide extra context to this item, CPA conducted a survey on this issue and requested the results to be included as part of the meeting materials. And you may find the survey results in attachment A. And thank you, CPA, for providing that information to us. Among the responses are expressions relating to long wait times and frustration regarding non-responsiveness. The board recognizes these issues, and we're also frustrated and disappointed that we could not assist our applicants with the customer service level that we had hoped for. However, we're not going to not do anything and just leave these issues unattended. Board management and staff have put our heads together to come up with long-term permanent solutions and short-term temporary solutions that would likely address the long wait times and non-responsiveness concerns in the interim. If the board agrees, I would like to provide you with an update to the licensing timeframes and the short-term and long-term solutions that staff has come up with.
Please go ahead, Mr.
Thank you, Dr. Tate. Next slide, please. I would like to first provide a background of what the application review process looks like for a psychologist license or a psychological associate registration. Next slide, please. An application, all applications are applicant-driven. It means that individuals interested in applying for a registration or a license will first need to initiate the process, which is most usual commonly to submit an application, which includes the application fee and all other required supporting documentations. So for fairness and transparency, all applications are reviewed and processed based on a first-come, first-served basis. The earlier an application or request is submitted, the earlier it will get into the processing queue. This also includes all supporting materials that are received after an initial review is complete. So for example, responses to application deficiencies when something is missing or incorrect, like a VOE form that certain required information is not there, we'll ask for those. And these documents will be put in a queue automatically when we receive them. And they will be reviewed and processed by the day order as they are received. And processing times do vary, and it very much depends on the number and quality of applications received at a time. And we post the application processing timeframes on the board's website on a monthly basis, which you can find on the next slide. Thank you. And this information you see here is updated monthly, and this is the data as of August 5th, and it provides the oldest received dates that we are processing for that application or request type. This information is also posted on the board's social media platforms for your reference. Next slide, please. I would also like to share with you the number of licensing staff that we have in the unit. Next slide, please. So this is a bar chart of the number of staff that we have over the last 5 years. Back in 2018 and 2019, we have 7 licensing analysts, 6 are at the staff services analyst level, and 1 is an associate governmental program analyst. They handled all the application review, and we have 2 licensing technicians helping with administrative work at that time as well. So during 2020 and 2021, we lost 3 analysts and are down to 4 analysts to shoulder the responsibility to review and process applications. And at times, we only have 3 analysts due to vacancy. We also lost a licensing technician since 2020. And this year, we got a retired Newton at the end of the first quarter to help with the processing of psychological associate applications, and that brings our analyst number up by 1. But we currently have a vacancy right now, so I just want to point that out. And next slide, please. And this is the volume of the new thank you. This is a volume of new applications and notifications that we received each year from 2018 to 2022. So you may notice that there's a decrease in number of new applications received for one type, and you will also see an increasing trend in another type of application. It seems that this application might likely go up in the future. And another thing that is worth of note is that applicants typically do not get licensed within the same year that they start the licensure process. And that's because they have 12 months to take each licensing exam after they have obtained the eligibility. And it is very likely that for application we received in 2018, we'll still be working with them in 2019 and so on. Also, just to share with you some quick and dirty ratio on the volume of new applications to staff, it is about 420s in year 2018 and 2019, and it jumps to 650s in year 2020 and 21. We also anticipated that processing times would lengthen due to the reduced number of staff, which the drastic increase in new application volume to analyst ratio kind of confirms it. And we also know that getting more staff would greatly help with the processing wait times, and we have asked for positions in 2019. Though we were not able to obtain those positions at that time, we're not going to sit idly by. We have taken steps to address our processing times. So let's talk about them, and we'll begin with our long-term permanent solutions. Next slide, please. And then one more. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the board has obtained the necessary statutory changes that were approved by the board for pathways to licensure. These changes help streamline and clarify licensure and registration requirements. In summary, the changes that we asked for included restructuring the section relating to exam settings. We expanded the pathways relating to accruing hours through internship of students who are enrolled in a qualified doctoral degree program. We have a new title change for psychological assistant to psychological associate, updated the supervisor and degree requirements for psychological associate registration, added additional option for foreign degree evaluation, and clarified its requirements. We also updated the streamlined requirements for 2 pre-licensure coursework. And these are just to name a few, and these are the listed statutes that we have obtained changed in the past years. Next slide, please. After obtaining the statutory authority, it enables us to work on the regulatory package for pathways to licensure next. And these are the sections that we will be working on. These sections will allow the board to fine-tune our licensure process and make further clarifications on licensure and registration requirements. And I think there will be an update about the process in later agenda item. Today's about regulations. Next slide, please. Budget change proposal. So this is the process that we asked for positions. So we tried in 2019 and we were unsuccessful. We're not going to give up because we understand the importance of having sufficient staff that allows the board to sustain the application workload. So for successful BCP, we'll first address the structural imbalance and achieve a solvency by obtaining additional funding. We can still ask for positions without being structurally balanced, but we would like to be fiscally responsible in seeking position and be a good steward to the licensee fund. So how do we address this issue? And we'll do that by getting a fee change. Next slide, please. And how a fee change can be done, it would be through both the regulatory and legislative processes. So we have already obtained our first fee increase in 30 years to the maximum amount allowed in regulations, and the new fees took effect on July 1 this year. And you can see the new fees listed on the slide below for your information. Next slide, please. Then we will pursue legislation to establish a new higher minimum and maximum amount of our fee next. So when the new range on fees are established by the statute, the board will seek to increase fee through the regulations to align the new fees within the range that was established in the law. Ideally, the board would be able to go back to the BCP process then and ask for positions successfully. The next BCP request will be in the spring, and which will be positions for fiscal year 2024-2025 if it's approved. Next slide, please. To fill the communication gap in the application process, we redirected an office technician position to the licensing unit. This position will help with the administrative support that we need, such as to provide a quick preliminary review and verify the types of documents necessary for a particular application. So for example, if we receive an application to take the EPPP, the licensing technician will check to see if all the required documents are there, all the required type of documents are there. Like the application form, is it there? Is the transcript there? Is the fee there? Is the necessary supervision agreement and VOE forms are also there? If something is missing, we hope that the technician will notify the applicant to notify the applicant about what is missing and let them know to submit them as soon as they can. And then on the other hand, if all the documents are there, and then it will get placed into the processing queue for an analyst to process. We also plan to modernize our record keeping by having the licensing technician to create and maintain electronic records of all application materials received in the mail. I think this, we think that this will enhance the process and increase our efficiency in retrieving any mail that's necessary. And then this position is already posted, and then it has a final filing date of August 22nd this month, a few more days. Then we will be able to review application for this position. Next slide, please. We continue to evaluate our business processes and make improvements necessary. One of the things that is we worked with the Organizational Improvement Office, OIO, and have finished mapping our business processes. So even though the mapping process was intensive, but it's very helpful to see the processes at the granular level so we can make changes and find efficiency. For the next step, we plan to work with OIO again to review processes to prepare us for a paper-light transition, hopefully in the first quarter of 2023. Next slide, please. Another step that we took relates to the Enlighten licensing project. This project is coordinated by the Department of Consumer Affairs. The goal is to introduce new ideas and implement best practices for critical licensing activities so that they can be more effective and efficient. As an outcome of the project, we see improvement opportunities that we could explore that would also benefit the licensing process, such as getting rid of paper applications from the board website so as to encourage more electronic submission. We will consider returning applications without fees so that it doesn't hold up the queue for complete applications that are ready for review. And then we will also look into configuring the system to deliver letters automatically to avoid mailing delays. Next slide, please. So we hear the demand about more online applications and the ability to make payment online in Breeze. We are already having conversation with our IT department to work on the possibility in making our applications available through Breeze. We noticed that this process is not as straightforward as we anticipated, but we are working on it and hope to come to a solution and make our application available online. We also see that snail mail could slow down communication due to mailing time. So we have started the process of transitioning mailed letters. For example, the withdrawn letter that is to be sent out by the system electronically. So then our applicants would get an email instead of a letter in the mail, trying to fill the communication gap and reduce the wait time in our communication. Next slide, please. Now let's switch gear to talk about the short-term temporary solutions. We were able to get a retired annuitant to work full-time in April this year, assisting with the review and processing of our applications. And we were able to secure additional funding to extend the RA time with the board so that she can continue to help with our application process on a temporary basis. Being mindful about the timeline regarding the BCP process, if we have a successful proposal, the earliest for the board to receive authorization to hire would be in fiscal year 2024-2025. As we would like to be able to continue to address the long wait times, we plan to seek an additional RA in the near future to help with the processes instead of just waiting until we're able to get position 2 years later. We have also trained the special projects coordinator to assist with the processing of psychological associate notifications as another measure to address the long wait times. Next slide, please. Staff has brainstormed many creative solutions to optimize the licensure process, such as refining on our forms for clarity and provide suggestions on how we can reduce the processing times through our licensing unit town hall. Some of the implemented solutions that I have presented to you already actually come from our licensing staff. As you can see, some of the suggestions listed on the slide. Next slide, please. So by implementing the long-term and short-term solutions, how are our processing times now? Next slide, please. Thank you. You can see that the processing times are down in June to about 40 business days from 50s and 60s in previous months across all types of applications and requests for psychologist applications. I do want to share with you that we do have a vacancy in the unit right now, and the last day for this vacancy was on July 27. Sorry, I mean like the last day that the staff was with the board, with the unit was on July 27. The position was posted with a final filing day on August 9th, and we have already scheduled interviews for the position, and hopefully we will be able to get someone on board as soon as possible. So with that said, I want to caution that the processing times would likely go up a bit in the next coming months due to the vacancy and the time necessary that we need to get new staff trained. Next slide, please. With the RA working full-time in April, it has significantly brought down our wait times to 23 days from the high 50s in previous months. There is a bit of increase in June and July for new applications processes as the RA has moved back to a half-time schedule on the temporary basis. All in all, the long-term and short-term solutions appear to show some positive impacts in shortening the processing timeframes, and we are hopeful that we can maintain these improved timelines as we continue to implement the above solutions. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. If you have questions specific to your application and situation, please do contact us directly so we can better address your questions after reviewing your file. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chung. That was great, and I applaud your efforts to try and be more responsive to our applicants. In an attempt to be very sensitive to the public's time constraints, I'm going to open up public comment at this time. We will do a break for lunch around 12:30. I'm trying to get as many public comments in, and then we will do a 45-minute lunch. So, Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment at this time?
We are now accepting public comment. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And our first request comes from Jolinder Crow. Bear with us just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Dr. Jolinder Crow. I'm the CEO at the California Psychological Association. And I want to first just start by thanking the board and the staff for adding this to the agenda and for your obvious commitment to making changes in this these wait times. And thank you for including the survey results in your materials. If I'm sure the board has those materials, and the public can see them if they go to the website. I wanted to make a brief comment, and I also know that Dr. Winkleman has a follow-up comment. We did this survey because we wanted to, we're scientists and we wanted to have some data to show. And we were really pleased that a little over 400 people responded to the survey that we sent out. The survey was sent to all CPA members, but also a broader email list that we have. And then we also invited people to forward the survey to any of their colleagues that might be hiring psych associates or that might have been impacted by the wait times. So I again appreciate Ms. Chung's your report, and obviously you all have been working on this a lot, and the wait times do seem to have improved. We do think it's still important that the board really recognize how serious this issue has become and is. It has these wait times, and not only wait times, but we asked some questions about just responsiveness to inquiries, either by email or by phone, and you can see the comments there. These wait times have had serious negative impacts on not only applicants, but on employers, and most importantly, on patients. You will see in the question 9 of the survey, we asked people to describe or to tell us what kinds of impact these wait times have had. 57% said that they had experienced financial hardship. 33% of the respondents said that they had seen disruptions in patient care, and this is really an important thing. 35% said that they had experienced difficulty in hiring because of the wait times for, particularly for psych associate applicants or for a person waiting to get their license. Many commented on lost job opportunities, lost income, and again, on the inability to engage in the profession that they were prepared to engage in. I did want to make one other just comment, and that is that we recognize, and we certainly recognize, that sometimes applications are not complete. However, when you read the comments in the survey, you'll notice that many of the comments revolved around the fact that they had sent everything in and then still had these extended wait times. We had 152 qualitative responses to the question about specific hardships that had occurred, and we had 139 responses to the question about, please give us any other general comments that you think would be helpful to the Board of Psychology. Some of the comments, in fact, some of the comments related to the hiring. One person said, for example, they had become reluctant to even take on a psych associate because of the difficulty in having a person get registered. Examples of some of the comments that you will read, and I hope that the board members will read all of these comments. an example, these delays have made it so that I'm faced with 4 to 5 months of not having any income, not being able to see my clients, even when I do everything in my control in as timely a fashion as possible. Someone else said, I help with recruitment and hiring and new hire onboarding and training at a large group private practice. Our new hires have had to wait several months to work after graduation, which impacts them financially and personally. And we have a long waiting list of patients who would benefit greatly from mental health services, and their care is delayed due to a shortage of available providers. Someone else said, I was denied a position due to the wait times for licensure. It took 10 months for the entire process, nearly a year without income, and it was very hard on me and my family. I want to just reflect before I end something that Dr. Kasuga said in her remarks, and Dr. Cervantes also commented on. And part of what I think we're facing is this, Dr. Kasuga said, it's the not knowing that is so important. And you will see in these comments the worry that people have. And I so appreciated your comments about maybe finding a way to let people track their own applications. It's the not knowing and not being able to get a response about what is happening. I spoke with someone over the weekend whose application was lost for 6 months. And then he resubmitted the application, and then it was placed on the bottom of the stack. And so it was another 6 months before it was processed. I want to just go back to saying how much I can appreciate the challenges that you have. I appreciate staff shortages. Maybe I appreciate it more than maybe anybody else on this call. I appreciate the challenges and so appreciate the fact that you are making this a priority. And we must all continue to work on this. If there's anything that CPA can do to be helpful, we are really ready to do that. This is having such a huge impact on patients, on trainees, on psychologists, and on the people waiting to hire them. Thank you so much again for putting this on the agenda. And I know that Dr. Winkleman has some follow-up comments.
I believe we have Dr. Elizabeth Winkleman next. Let's see. To unmute your microphone.
I got it, Jason.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Dr. Elizabeth Winkleman from the California Psychological Association, and I just wanted to follow up on Dr. Linda Crow's comments. First, I also want to thank you for placing this item on the agenda, including our survey results, and especially for all the work that you've undertaken so far to address this issue. I wanted to put in context also why it's still such a serious concern for our members, is that, as you know, psychology applicants have already gone through many years of training, and most have a considerable student debt when they're waiting to start their when they're waiting to get licensed and start their career as a licensed professional, many over $100,000. So I think this puts a framework also after all those many years of studying and training to have these kind of delays is very difficult for applicants. I wanted to highlight a couple of results from the survey. So first of all, as you can see in questions number 3 to number 6 about the applications for the psychological associate registration, to take the application to take the EPPP, the application to take the CPLEE, and the application for the initial license. For each of those steps, it usually takes about 2 to 4 months, according to our survey respondents. but also to note that each step is cumulative, so the total wait time is much longer, often up to about 1 year. And I also wanted to point out another statistic that was troubling, which is that whereas most people do pass each step within 2 to 4 months, approximately 10% of respondents waited more than 6 months for just one step in the process to be approved. For example, 12% said that they waited over 6 months for their psychological associate registration. So again, I think that this puts a context into the overall waiting time when you add all of these delays up. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that we also asked about responsiveness in general to any type of phone or email inquiry to the board, not just from people who are seeking licensure. And that is in questions number 7 and 8 in the results. And what the results showed was that about 34% never received a response to an email inquiry, and 47% said that they never received a response to a phone call inquiry. So I hope that the board and the board staff will also be looking into that general responsiveness issue, because as I've mentioned in comments at previous meetings, our psychologists and the applicants, they want to do things the right way. They want to be in compliance with the board's rules and regulations. If they need to submit an extra form, they want to do it. And it's very difficult if they cannot contact the board and get answers to whatever inquiries they may have. So just wanted to mention that part of the survey too, that I hope that will be taken under consideration and can be looked to potentially improve that responsiveness to inquiries. So just in closing, I just really urge the Board of Psychology members and the staff to carefully review the results of the survey and to also read the comments, because I think that when you read the comments, then you'll see it really illustrates the hardships that these delays can cause for many applicants, for employers, and for patients. And it really can be difficult for many of the people who are waiting for these steps in the licensure process. Again, thank you for the improvements that you have made so far, and I really hope and urge you to continue to make this a high priority to address these issues. Thanks very much.
Next, we have Dr. Samuels. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Okay. Dear members of the Board of Psychology and its administrative staff, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today on this important issue. My name is Eric Samuels, and I have been licensed as a psychologist in California since July 2017. I'm also currently the president of the Alameda County Psychological Association, as well as a board member of CPA Division I, Division for Clinical and Professional Affairs. I want to thank the Board of Psychology for focusing on this issue today, and I'm grateful for all the hard and important work that the Board of Psychology and its administrative staff engage in. And yet, because of experiences that I have had and that I know that others have had, I have also become concerned about the amount of time that has been taking for the Board of Psychology to process applications. I'm also concerned about the responsiveness of the administrative staff to issues that come up. This past January, I was contacted by the Board of Psychology to inform me that I was randomly selected to do a mandatory CE audit. I was given 2 months to submit all my materials to pass the audit. However, I was unsure about whether one of my CE certificates had everything that was required, and if this certificate was not acceptable, that I would not have passed the audit because that certificate was for an 11-hour training that I had done. I sent an email to the administrative staff member at the Board of Psychology who oversees CE audits to try to get clarification on this issue, but I never got a response. I also left 3 voicemail messages for the same staff member. but I also never got a response. Fortunately, I was able to figure out this situation myself and submit all my certificates for the audit, which I passed. However, my confusion about whether one of my certificates would be accepted, in addition to not hearing anything back from the Board of Psychology about this, led to a great amount of anxiety and frustration. Based on my experience, I am concerned about the ability of this Board of Psychology to handle other questions that come up about CEs. This, in my opinion, is concerning because of the new CPD requirements that are about to go into effect in January. And while I am supportive of the new CPD requirements, I'm assuming that it is likely that the Board of Psychology will be receiving a lot of questions about them as they go into effect. I have been told that the Board of Psychology plans on publishing an FAQ about the new CPD requirements, but I believe that many license holders will still attempt to contact the Board of Psychology, ask questions about them. Will the Board of Psychology have the capacity to answer all these questions? I have also been told that the Board of Psychology desires to do CE audits on 10% of all license holders each year. However, based on the information provided in the licensure committee report that was put together for today's meeting, the number of CE audits that were initiated in 2022 gives us the impression that only between 1% to 2% of license holders are going to be audited this year. If the number of CE audits initiated in the second half of this year is similar to the number of CE audits that were initiated in the first half of this year. I don't know, though, whether there have been more CE audits done in previous years. A very good friend of mine became licensed in California in 2018 as a psychologist. Even though they've only been licensed since 2018, they told me that they've already gone through 3 CE audits, 2 of them occurring for the same renewal cycle. I'm not sure how that has happened. It feels bewildering. I'm most concerned about how licensure candidates have been impacted by these delays. In my opinion, we are in a mental health crisis, and as such, it is important that we efficiently move individuals who've earned their psychology doctorates through the licensure process. It took another good friend of mine 2 months to get their license number after passing the CPLEE and submitting their pre-licensure coursework. Another friend of mine had an issue with their verification of experience form for their internship because they and the training director signed it on the same day, but their supervisor signed it on a different date because their supervisor was not in the office on the day that my friend and their training director signed it due to COVID. My friend told me that this discrepancy was clarified on the VOE form. My friend submitted their VOE form to apply to take the EPPP in late July of 2021. However, my friend informed me that they heard back in late September that their form was going to be denied due to there being different signature dates. My friend told me that they, their supervisor, and the training director all tried to clarify this, but they got no response from the Board of Psychology. My friend also told me that in November 2021, they were told by some member of the Board of Psychology's administrative staff that the Board of Psychology does not respond to correspondence from licensure candidates, and that they would not respond to inquiries about specific cases. In January 2022, my friend conveyed to me that their training director sent a formal letter to the Board of Psychology explaining the situation and that, as a result, they were approved to take the EPPP a few days later. My friend shared with me that their experience impacted their ability to find a new job. As we all know, many jobs require proof of licensure. My friend was able to find a job, but their new job is going to require that they get licensed within 6 months of their start date. However, not being licensed will impact my friend's pay and benefits at their new job. In addition, my friend took the EPPP in June, but did not pass. When they learned that they did not pass, they informed me that they were told that they could register to take the test again within 24 hours. However, my friend told me that they were given no information about how to schedule a new test, and they were given no information about how they would find out about how to move forward. My friend stated that they contacted the board to get clarification, but they were told that they should wait a week to get the information. They also informed me that they tried to talk with Pearson about this, but that Pearson told them to contact the Board of Psychology. And when they spoke with the board about this, my friend told me that the board told them to contact Pearson. Finally, my friend informed me that the Board of Psychology told them that they didn't have their score from their first attempt at taking the EPPP, and that ultimately it took them over a month to get this issue rectified. The last situation I'd like to discuss today is regarding the paperwork to supervise registered psychological associates. I began supervising a psychological associate this spring. As such, I filled out the supervision experience agreement form before the psych associate began their work under my supervision. And yet, I'm a bit uncertain about the essay questions that I was asked to complete on the second page of the form. How will it be assessed as to whether the answers that I wrote are sufficient? When going through this, I consulted with another psychologist who also began supervising psych associates recently, and they told me that they were able to see examples of responses to these essays on the Board of Psychology website when they were filling out this paperwork. However, I was not able to see those example essay responses myself, nor was my colleague that I consulted with. Is it possible that the answers that I provided to the essay questions will be deemed insufficient, which will further delay my psych associate from getting licensed? Since the supervision agreement form will not be submitted until my psych associate is ready to take the CPLEE, we will not know about whether my answers will be acceptable until then. But if my answers to those essay questions are unacceptable, then would my psych associate have to redo their SPE hours that they have completed under my supervision? That would be a further delay. Again, I want to thank the Board of Psychology and its administrative staff for all the work that they do. The work that the Board of Psychology does is important, and I understand that all the issues that the board is dealing with are complex. And yet, I hope that we can all agree that it is imperative that some changes be made to address these issues. If anyone from the board would like to follow up with me about any of this, then please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Hello, this is Leah Tate, and I would like to thank everyone for public comments. We are going to be breaking for lunch and resuming comments. We want to spend as much time as we need to hear all the comments, but we're definitely pushing all the board members at this time. So we will break for lunch right now and come back at 1:30. Thank you so much.